Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tell Your Story. I'm your host, Todd Neslony, the Director of Culture and Strategic Leadership for TEPSA. And each episode, I look to bring you a different guest who has encouraged, inspired, or challenged me in one way or another, and invite them on to share their story in hopes that it inspires you to share some of yours. I'm thrilled this week to have my special guest, Kelli Coons, on with me. Kelli, tell everybody a little bit about who you are.
Hi everybody. Right now I'm a cooped up mother of two that is working as a literacy coach from home, trying to support teachers in this remote and distance/emergency learning that's going on right now. And previously have a background as a technology coach as well, working with Google and as a trainer, and then as a classroom teacher. So it's a little bit about what I'm doing right now anyway.
Well, Kelli, tell me a little bit about your path. So did you always know you wanted to be in education when you were growing up?
I did. Ever since I was a little girl, I remember playing school and lining up all the stuffed animals and doing everything everyone always says that they do as they're getting ready to be a teacher. And I wanted to be in education. My mother was a teacher's aide. I think they called it chapter one and then title one. And so she was an aide in an elementary school that I went to. And she worked part-time doing that. And I was just really inspired by it. And so I went through school, participated as a teacher cadet in high school, even started my undergrad as a elementary education major. And then all of a sudden I don't know. I think just like everybody else, I changed my mind a couple times, changed my major a few times. And so I ended up graduating with a degree in mass media communications and working in radio broadcasting, and then also working with sales and marketing in advertising agencies in Detroit. And so I actually had a pretty good career, a pretty good run of it. And then in Detroit, all of the auto industries began to go under. And this was about in, I'd say 2005-ish. And so I decided that a school near me, the University of Michigan, was offering what was called the MAC program. And you could return to the school. They would analyze your transcripts to see what courses you needed. And it was a year-long student teaching assignment along with coursework. And then at the end, you would get your master's in teaching. And so then you'd be certified to teach. So completed that and worked full-time as well as student taught and had a full class load, which I don't even know how I did it. Like times like those you just get through and you're like, I don't even know how this happened. Yeah. And then moved to South Carolina 4 days after my husband and I got married and got my first job and have taught ever since. So
did you stick with elementary or did you go to secondary? What was that? And what went into your decision on whether you chose one or the other?
Well, actually my program, the MAC program through the University of Michigan, placed us in high need areas. And so I was placed in a kindergarten classroom for a year in Flint, Michigan. And when we moved to South Carolina, I interviewed and got a 5th grade position. So I jumped right from kindergarten to 5th grade. There were some things that they had in common as well, I found.
Yeah, of course.
Just bigger kids, bigger needs. And then I stayed in the elementary intermediate range. Then a couple of years ago, I got an opportunity with Google and Digital Promise and EdTech team to work at a middle school, which was 6th through 8th grade. Then last year in the district, they kind of moved some of that technology goodness to the intermediate grades. And now I am back at a K4 through 6th grade setting, working with that whole range again, which is kind of the sweet spot, really. So I've stayed K through 8, and that's really my sweet spot, really. So yeah. I've stayed doing that. But
and you've got a little bit of a love for technology and instructional technology. And so where did that interest come from within education? Were you always kind of a tech user and you're like, this is just a natural thing for me, or is it something you grew into?
I think of myself, and I think a lot of people that are in our field we're just forever a student and forever a learner. And I think sometimes technology especially when it was kind of really coming into being fully integrated and going one-to-one in different districts, was really an exciting time for those of us that wanted to grasp a hold of that. And so I just was really intrigued by it, excited by it. It fed my brain. And so I think that the technology piece is definitely something that's not going away. It's something that is proven to be extremely important, especially these last few weeks, in connecting with our students and our staff. But it's exciting to me, and it's something new all of the time to get excited about. So that's
what's
kind of
a tech tool that you are absolutely in love with right now?
I actually I've used Google Meet for a long time in one-on-one meetings, and the thing that was really frustrating to me was that you could only see a couple people at a time in a meet, or it was the person that was speaking, when really you want to see everybody's reactions. So in transitioning to this distance learning, there's the Meet versus Zoom conversation, and everybody has their preferences. I'm obviously a Google girl, so I was I'm a Meet enthusiast, but I loved the Brady Bunch view that Zoom had. But I also didn't like some of the features of Zoom. So there was an extension that was released, I believe it was a week ago now, it feels like forever ago, that enabled you the Google Meet grid view and some of the different extensions you can download to Meet that are very helpful, and really enable you to see a whole class reaction, which is what I think we're all looking for, especially since we haven't really been around a lot of people. And then another thing that I love that I'm really starting to use a little bit more of and realizing how interactive it is Pear Deck. Pear Deck with Google Slides, and also just as a quick pulse check on understanding and if the kids are getting it, and just really kind of using those tools that are already built to just insert in slides. So that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love the grid view in Google Meet. I'm so glad they went and added that, because for me, it's like, why would you not want that from the get-go? Because I don't want to just have it pop to who's talking. Like, I like seeing everyone. And so I'm so glad they added that too. And so you work all the time with helping people understand the value of technology and utilizing it in their instruction. For somebody who tech is still a big fear of theirs, what advice do you have of just getting in there and becoming more comfortable with things?
Well, I think that the wonderful thing about technology is that even if you feel like you're at a beginner level, at home, open up your browser, you can search in YouTube almost how to do absolutely anything. And there's so much out there. I teach at the local university here. I teach and do some adjunct teaching for them, and I work with pre-service teachers in how to best integrate technology into their classrooms. And so that has been really exciting for me to give them this preview of what this will look like when they actually get their own classrooms. And a lot of them, I just kind of ask them at the very beginning, what's one thing that you don't know how to do that by the time we get done with this class, you would really like to know how to do? And some of them, they've never opened up anything in the G Suite. They didn't realize that in Docs, multiple people could collaborate. They didn't, so it's different. It's very personalized. It's very individualized. But my advice would be just to take it slow. And if you have to watch 3 or 4 different YouTube clips on how to screencast or how to invite others to on a calendar invite, whatever it is, there are so many resources out there, and that's the beauty of it, is that YouTube has helped to turn us into such self-taught masters. So that would be my advice.
Agree. And and I always tell people too, when I'm working with technology, I always tell them, you're not going to break it. Like, if it messes up, close the window and reopen it or go back. Like, it's okay. It's not like how we used to learn things. So I love that advice. Well, Kelli, thinking about your own path and past, what was school like for you growing up? What did you enjoy school? Was it something that was difficult for you? What was it like?
I loved school. I loved school my whole life, which is probably why I have to force myself not to take a class each semester myself in something. I loved school, but I think why I loved it so much is because I had the very best teachers. I really did. And I know they say that all the time, that the teachers make the difference. They truly do, though.
Yeah.
I had wonderful teachers that are still Facebook friends of mine, and I still reach out to. And I had a great experience in school. I did not love math. That was, and I figured out that it wasn't because I wasn't good at it. It's because I had to work harder at it. And ELA, social studies, all of those things came really easy to me.
Right.
But the math piece was really hard and I struggled. But
Yeah.
I found out after teaching fifth grade math that I think subjects that you struggle with personally, you do a better job of teaching because you just want
Completely
to make
agree.
sure that they get it. I didn't want any of my kids to walk away feeling the way that I felt about my own abilities with math. And so I felt like I was a better math teacher for having struggled in that way. If
I
that
always
makes
say the
sense.
same thing. That's why I became a math teacher, because I taught fifth grade math too. And it was like, that's why I wanted to teach math, because it was a struggle for me. I didn't enjoy it when I was a kid. And I was like, I want to make that different for kids these days. So I totally can relate and understand. Well, Kelli, you said you also have your own children, right?
I do.
So you have your own children. You're this instructional technology coach. You're doing this adjunct teaching. How do you balance everything where you don't burn out?
Well, I think that each of those pockets, if you compartmentalize them a little bit, my kids happen to go to the school that I work at, which is a blessing and a curse at the same time. It's a blessing because I love my school. I think that everything about it is wonderful, and I just couldn't imagine my kids anywhere else. And I think my work coaching, that kind of satisfies that intellectual aspect. And then also when you coach, even though you're still working with teachers, you don't have your kids and your class. So when I go to teach my adjunct class, I get that feeling of being a teacher all over again. And so it kind of satisfies some different things that I'm always looking to fulfill. So it does get busy. I have a very supportive husband that steps in and will take the kids to their practice or wherever they need to go. And it does get really busy, but I think that it's important to feel personally and professionally fulfilled, because then it always kind of brings you back to your purpose. And even though I can be crazy busy, with the kids, running them here and there, I've still got something else that's mine that I feel fulfilled by. And so that's important too.
I love that. I think that's great advice too. One thing that I talk about through many of these episodes is the idea of doubt, and how even though you may be really successful, you may love what you're doing, doubt can sometimes still find its way to creep in, where you begin to compare yourself or not think that your stuff is good enough. When you find doubt creeping into your own life, how do you work to keep it at bay where it doesn't consume you?
Well, I think that first of all, comparison definitely just can steal your joy sometimes. And right now there are a lot of people doing a lot of great things. And I think that social media has done an excellent job of highlighting wonderful things that educators are doing. But I also think it's created this environment where everybody feels like they've got to keep up with that person next door and in the classroom next door. And that's not you. I think that, and that's one thing that really, as you know, with get your teach on and get your lead on, that's one thing that you guys say is just, don't compare yourself to the person next door and don't be worried about what everybody else is doing. You have to figure out what works for you and what's authentic for you. Because if I try and do what the teacher does or the coach does that's in the other school, it may not fly for me because it may not, it's not coming from a real place for me.
Right.
But I think that, I think if you truly think about why you do what you do, and if I could share this quote, I'm sure you've probably heard it. I live in South Carolina right now, so Dabo Swinney is like a king here. And the Clemson Tigers, obviously, they've been very successful in recent years. But his quote, it just sticks in my mind whenever I start to think about comparing things. But his quote, and I might massacre it here, but it was, "Don't worry about the opinions of people that you wouldn't seek advice from." And so if
Wow.
you wouldn't go to that person for help or for,
Yeah, I like
good
that.
advice in your life, don't worry about what they think. And that's something that with my own children that I try to instill in them, because I want my kids to be leaders. I don't want them to be followers. I want them to do what they truly want to do. Because if you start living your life based on the opinions of other people, you're not truly living your life. You're just
Right.
doing what you feel like you're going to be able to get by doing. So,
And that was powerful. I think that quote, I have never heard that before, but don't let the opinions of people you wouldn't seek advice from bother you. I love that.
mhm,
That's incredible. Well,
yeah.
Kelli, looking at your life and the path that it's led to get you here, I'm sure there's lots of positives, down times, celebratory but heartbreaking times as well.
Mhm.
But when you reflect on your path to where you are today, what would you say is one of those examples of something that really played a big role into creating the woman you are today?
Um, I always bring it back to my upbringing, and I grew up in Flint, Michigan. My dad worked on the assembly line. As I've said, my mother was a teacher's aide, but grew up, having everything that I wanted, but never realizing sacrifices that went into
Right.
it. And I
Mhm.
don't think you truly get it until until you get a little older and you have your family and you know but I think that it's always been important to my family and my parents, no matter what you make or what you want to do, you need to do something that you feel fulfilled by, a job that you feel fulfilled by. And my dad worked on the line at GM, but he would be the first to tell you that he was just getting a paycheck, and he wasn't really getting anything out of it other than a paycheck and really good benefits.
Right.
So he just said, when you go to college, and I changed my mind a couple times, of course, but he said, when you go to college, I want you to do something that you really want to do, that
Yeah.
you really feel like, is your purpose. And if it's not, I want you to change your mind. I want you to do what you want to do. So I think that has really shaped shaped who I am. And in attending your session at Get Your Lead On, I believe it was Charlotte about a year and a half ago.
Uh-huh.
You had kind of shared and talked about the influence that your mother had on your life, and my mother. It'll be in June. It'll be 5 years since she had passed away, and I really think that those strong maternal figures that we have in our lives that just instill so much in us, that are either whether they're in education or whatever career that they're in, that nurturing and everything that they give. I mean, if I'm half as good of a person as my mom
Mhm.
was,
Right.
I think I'll be doing pretty good. I feel like I'm falling short lately in this quarantine climate that's happening right now. It's made me really, really short and not very patient. And she was
Right.
like the epitome of that. Um, and so I guess I just try to be someone that she would be proud of, is what I think about all of the time. Like, did I take every opportunity? If she were here right now, what would she want me to do with this? She would want me to, just take every opportunity and every chance, and not have any regrets about it. So that's kind of what I think about every day when I wake up, and we're blessed to wake up. So I think about that, and what she would want for me to do. So.
I love that so much. And, I can so relate to that of, just wanting to emulate and be the person they're proud of. And so
Mm-hmm.
I thank you for sharing that with me. Well, Kelli, one thing I always love to end these conversations on is the idea of having one thing. And so when you think about what you would hope or want more people, like what would your one thing be that you want more people to know or understand?
I think people are starting to get a little bit more of this lately, but just to I want educators to be appreciative of parents and what they're trying to do. I want parents to be more appreciative of educators. I think that that's kind of a perspective that everyone's getting a different view on. But just overall, at least the teachers that I work with and a lot of the people that I surround myself with, we genuinely care for students and care for people and care about what goes on when they're not inside our classrooms and inside our buildings. And I think for the most part, for parents, that's their most special, precious gift, and they are sending that child to you every single day. And so, if we all just remember that that child's best interest at heart on both sides, then we're gonna win. That's a winning situation. But I think sometimes we're so quick to say, well, if they would have done this at home, or if they would have been working on this in school, I think we've just got to be a united front on that, and just realize that we're in it for the kids, and that's really why we're all here. So
I love that. Well, Kelli, I thank you so much for coming and being a guest today on Tell Your Story. You're doing great work, so I appreciate you coming and being here today.
Well, thank you for having me. I love it. Love to watch it. Love to see all the different guests that you've got, and you've got just such a positive thing going for. And thank you for all the work that you do, and the books that you have out. I think that they're just something everybody should be looking at when they're sitting during their quarantine times. So,
well, thank you so much, Kelli, and thank you everybody for listening or watching another episode of Tell Your Story. Remember, you can check out past episodes on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever you get it, it's there. I hope today's conversation with Kelli has inspired you to get out there and tell your story, because every story matters.